Welcome back to Talking Winter Ops. I'm Rick Nelson, and I'll be your host for the 2025 National Winter Maintenance and Road Weather Briefing Series. This is our opportunity to catch up with our partners in winter maintenance and road weather to find out what they've been working on this past year and what they're planning for the future. These briefings are a way to see if their work might fit into your operation. But before we get started, it's important to give a shout out to the briefing sponsors, starting with the AASHTO Winter Weather Management Technical Service Program, who sponsors Talkin' Winter Ops. Their parent AASHTO committee, the Committee on Maintenance, and their close ties with the Maintenance Operations Technical Working Group, and of course the state DOTs, whose yearly contribution to the Winter Weather Management Technical Service Program make all this possible. So sit back and listen in on this winter maintenance and road weather briefing. Todd Law, you are with the Vermont Agency of Transportation.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm
And
the director of fleet for the AOT.
so that's an interesting spin. Fleet is pretty tightly intertwined with the whole maintenance operation, probably the most integral part of the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because my path actually took me a little different spin. I was the director of maintenance and fleet until flooding in 2023, and now I'm trying to relocate our central garage. So I'm back to engineering and a little bit of administrating, but so they downsized my role and upsized some of my projects, and from there a lot less stress, and looking forward to moving into this new realm. I've been doing it for a year and a half now, since we decided to move out of our current location in the floodway and the flood area, and so it's been a good move. I've gotten much more embedded into the fleet portion of it, where my dad worked for almost 40 years. Strange enough, but
In the fleet area?
yeah, my dad
Oh, okay.
was a mechanic, and then a mechanic supervisor, and then a manager, and when he retired in 2009. So,
Wow. Wow, long legacy, long legacy.
and it goes
But
further than that. My grandmother worked for the AOT. Her brother worked for the Department of Highways before there was an AOT. Yeah, it's a family thing.
oh my gosh, you probably bleed orange, right?
Pretty much, yeah. That's the joke for sure.
So Todd, in addition to being the director of the fleet, and more importantly, you're the chair of Clear Roads.
I am. Yeah, I happily accepted that. I was hoping to coattail Doug for a couple of years, but having a great administrator, I think, helps, and having a great team to lead is amazing. So, I know I'm going to get support from the previous chair. Craig's an amazing guy, and I look forward to leading our group for the next couple of years.
Sweet, sweet. Todd, what is going on with Clear Roads these days?
So, it's funny. We always have a lot going on in Clear Roads. We have a lot going on in our own jobs, but Clear Roads is always an extremely busy group. Not just with the research projects that we do a lot of, especially with our new members, but the networking piece in itself is invaluable. So we have a lot going on the research end. A lot of great research projects. A lot of staff that continually bring up great ideas. We've been improving some of our previous research projects. So yeah, we're definitely a busy group. So as we said, Clear Roads is the Winter Highway Operations Pooled Fund through the Federal Highway. We do a lot of practical applications, field testing, and make sure that we have usable results. So, our projects are driven by our TAC members, and I think that in itself provides something that's very useful for everybody. So every year we fund new projects, and I've said this multiple times to our own SRP program. We get a huge bang for the buck. We put in $25,000 annually. But 39 members at $25,000. That's hedging a lot of money towards research and development, and And I think it's really led to the success of the Clear Roads program. So of course our core activities, we want to evaluate winter maintenance materials, equipment, and methods. Specifications are a big one. We want to make sure that we're fairly consistent, even though we're a little different depending on where we are across the nation. Having some sort of boilerplate specifications and recommendations is extremely important for us. Being innovative, I think we have a lot of best management practices that have really made us a lot more efficient and effective. And then the technology transfer, making sure that we can provide not just to DOTs, but to municipalities or anybody else who's in the winter maintenance practices across the world. I know we have a little bit of a presence from Europe. We hope to grow that more, and hopefully our research projects and all of our projects themselves have been helpful for the winter maintenance professionals across the world. So then our website. So we have a fairly sophisticated website, has a lot of information on it. With all of our research projects, we've really made a lot of improvements to our website to make sure that we can find our categories a lot easier. So the other thing in there, winter maintenance news, meeting minutes, and anything else that may be of pertinent information for ourselves and for others within the snow fighting community. So as I said, we've improved our search function in our Clear Roads website. It was a little more cumbersome previously, but we did a project to improve that. And now you just click on the all research and synthesis projects and type into the search, and it populates all the different projects that have to do with whatever your search that you're looking for. This one I put training in, and immediately I got 10 projects, but you could put in best management practices, de-icing, anything like that that would be relevant to what you're looking for. So it's become a lot more user-friendly, and therefore for ourselves and anybody else who's interested in any of these research projects, makes it a lot more useful. And then some of our more popular research projects, the ELDT, or the entry-level driver's training, was something that was mandated by Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration in February of 2022, wherein each entity has to have their own training facility, their own training regimen, start providing all the information onto the FMCSA. All this information, we kind of pulled together and said, we need to do something on this. So we hired a consultant. They came in and provided us all this information on the ELDT, and I think it's been very successful. We've used it in Vermont. As far as I know, there's been a lot of other states that are using it, if not as a whole, at least portions of that. And we've had outreach from other entities, municipalities, private industries. So I think this was extremely successful for ourselves and for others. And of course, things like defensive drivers training, we got to make sure that we train our most valuable assets, which are our employees, because without them, we're really not doing ourselves any services. And then one of the previous extremely important projects was the snowplow operator and supervisor training, and another one that got a lot of outreach and got a lot of requests from outside the DOTs. But there are multiple modules in there, and again, Vermont uses this for a lot of our own operator training because, again, that's the most valuable asset. Without those people behind the other valuable asset, which is our equipment, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. We need good people to do what we're doing. And then, one of the things that I really love is the best management practices. This is one of the things that I can go to the legislature and explain to them that, we're doing the right things for the safety of our traveling public, but also balancing that with the budgetary constraints and the environmental factors. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people, it's a balance. They don't understand that. There's so many factors in there, but once you put salt out to the environment, it's out there. It doesn't magically come back to us. So And then, of course, one of the initial successful projects was the National Winter Safety Campaign, and making sure that we're kind of speaking the same language. And of course, this is one of the most popular ones that I've seen like over and over, and still very prominent, even though it came out in 2007, is the Ice and Snow, Take It Slow. And it's kind of a tongue twister, but that makes it a little more enhancing in my opinion. I have to think about what I'm saying when I say it. So, but it's simple, it's direct, and it helps to get that information out to the traveling public, who has to invest with us in the safety. So some of our new projects we have going on, and again, to make sure that we're consistent throughout the nation, and that everybody's kind of speaking with the same information, developing a road condition standard. We've always struggled to say, what is the road conditions we're looking for? So this will be one that'll help that. AVL GPS, or our automated vehicle location systems, that's been extremely important, has really grown over the last 5 to 10 years, where it used to be a handful of states were using the AVL systems to determine where their equipment was, and now it'll actually tell you what we're putting out for material and application rates, and it's just an amazing piece of technology. And that's changed so significantly after the last few years. It's becoming extremely valuable for us. So we continually look at our old projects, and that's one of the things about making our website a little more useful and user-friendly. But another one that's coming out is updated techniques in clearing different interchange configurations. As we build capital projects, we need to make sure that we can efficiently and effectively clear them. So we did a project back in 2014. Now we're going to update that. Materials and guidance to maximize. We know weather service contracts are extremely important. Without good, reliable weather forecasting, again, we're kind of having a futile effort here, trying to combat winter maintenance. So. And then, one of the things I talked about earlier is how important our equipment is, and making sure we're taking care of our equipment. So the washing facilities is another new project that we're working on that's going to be extremely important for us. Again, AVL and how that works, there's just so much going on that front that between us and Aurora that we want to make sure we're dividing and conquering, but this is something that I think everybody nationwide is really getting into and starting to embrace. And then our ongoing initiatives, things like our annual survey. I've used this multiple times, again, to go to the legislature, to go to our own executive team, budget committee, to talk about how we're doing. And it's things like this. I can click on this map, and I can click on any of the metrics that are on the sides and compare and contrast where we are. And a lot of times, you look at Vermont, you look at New Hampshire, it looks like one's the flipped over version of the other, and we get compared all the time, compared and contrasted. So having information like this, how many plow trucks do we have, how much material did we use, how many lane miles, this is all important for us when we start getting either customer or legislative feedback, so we can answer those questions extremely well. More initiatives, QPL, and I know Craig said this a couple years ago. Clear Roads took over the former Pacific Northwest Snowfighters organization qualified product list, and this is extremely important. We need to make sure that what we're utilizing for de-icing works for us, and having this group together and having it be one of our subcommittees now, having subject matter expertise that are looking at this is extremely important to us. If we're not putting out the right material, again, we're not going to be successful in our endeavors. And this has been huge for us. Even before it became part of Clear Roads, it was actually an immense undertaking, and a small group taking care of it. And now we have a few more hands that are in this, which is important. Again, product proficiency, back to the quality control, making sure that we're having, using the right equipment, right materials, etc. So, extremely important. And then our equipment database. Again, equipment's extremely important to us, making sure that it works. I mean, some states use tow plows, some states don't. We have new technologies out there, Magna wings and Mega wings and Mega plows. And I mean, there's just so much going on that front. Everybody's trying to get something that's bigger, better, more useful, and that's an exciting place to be. And some of our in progress projects, grip sensors, again, another technology, chloride-based deicers, migration. Again, once we put the salt out there, it doesn't just come back to us. So determining how to deal with that. And then the update to the public service announcement library. That ice and snow, take it slow. What can we do? Is that getting old? Do we keep that? Do we add to it? We have to make sure we're talking to our customer base and the traveling public to at least work with us on safety. So we got a lot going on as it shows. Another update, the impact of capital projects. So many times, and I've used this, we had a 2014 again project on the impacts of capital projects on winter maintenance. And it was a very simple Excel spreadsheet tool that was developed for that, but you put in any new capital projects and it outputs what the additional costs are going to be. And that's one of the things that we could never quantify before. So we're improving that now to hopefully make sure that we're funded efficiently and effectively for our endeavors. So more going on. QPL, we're constantly trying to upgrade that. Cameras, another big item, and taking video and how long do you keep the images and who can request the images. And so, those are always big things for us. It's always an exciting place. Normally everybody's into like 4 or 5 different projects at the same time, but, again, it's a really exciting place to be. And then brine making. We know liquids are extremely important for our uses, and one of the newest things, obviously, is UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles. So drones for winter maintenance. One of the things you wouldn't think of, but we've used them a little bit in Vermont. We have a fairly small UAV team, but they've already provided some benefits to us. So trying to grow that out, do a synthesis project, and determine what other people are using. Completed projects, salt shed design. Of course, we need to store our salt and keep it out of the weather. It's way too expensive for us. And of course, the environmental impacts if we leave it out to the weather. Again, protecting our DOT equipment, another update. We had some improvements with a lot of the corrosion inhibitors and what you spray on your equipment to protect it from de-icers, which we all know are corrosives. Training modules, again, storm severity for performance measures. All these things are extremely important to us. And then again, the BMPs, liquid chloride storage and pumping. We had some issues in some states that some of their liquid storage equipment failed on them, and making sure we have adequate and the correct specifications for what we're utilizing is extremely important. So the project actually called out and provided better specifications for us. Again, dashboards, another big performance measure piece that everybody's always looking for, because everybody wants to see how we're doing and be able to measure that. Brine making, again, UAV, we did the synthesis, now we're into the full project. And then, of course, the winter driving safety, which, again, we need to make sure that the traveling public is partnering with us on winter driving safely. Back to the snowplower and operators training. These are the ones that I highlighted before and how important that was. And as you can see, we had 406 requests. That's way bigger than the 39 snow states we have. So, that was an extremely successful project for us and really hit the mark. And this one was by far the biggest, the ELDT, because it hit everybody. But, as of May 2025, 1,510 requests. Again, another one that, it's invaluable to us, but to others, which is an amazing piece for us. Again, our website, so all this information is on there, all the briefs, the full reports, guides, tools are all in the Clear Roads site at www.clearroads.org. And again, it's an amazing group. The networking is absolutely phenomenal. And we still have a few snow states that aren't involved, and hopefully they're at least reaping the benefits, but it'd be nice to have them involved so they can give us some of their perspectives and be at the table with us for a little bit of money. And of course, I'm the advisory chair, our administrator, Greg Wadley from CTC and Associates, and of course our lead state. We always got to call them out, where Tom Peters is our technical lead for MnDOT, Minnesota DOT, and Katie Walker's the administrative lead for us for Minnesota DOT. They do so much for us. They're absolutely amazing. We've been doing this for quite a few years now. With that, I think we're done.
Todd, Clear Roads has got an awful lot of work underway. Boy, it's just amazing to take a look at those list of projects. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's exciting, Rick. I love that. It's impressive, it's exciting, but you've been doing this for quite a while too, and it's just, we have turned a corner, and I think it's this networking. It's the fact that we're working together for the common goal that really does. And whether it's AASHTO or it's Clear Roads or Aurora, there's just so many amazing groups that are putting their subject matter expertise together, and it's I think that's really turned a corner for us and really made it as successful as it is.
Yeah, outstanding work. Todd, we'll put your contact information along with the contact information for other folks down in the show notes. So if folks want to learn more about what's going on at Clear Roads, we would invite them to send out an email or visit your website and check it out.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Rick. Really appreciate this.
Well, thanks, Todd, for participating in the briefing. As always, take care, man.
You too. Thank you.
You can listen to all the briefings and other Talkin' Winter Ops episodes on our website, talkinwinterops.com, or wherever you get your podcast content. Video versions are available on Talkin' Winter Ops YouTube channel, and if a slide deck was used during this briefing, it's available through a link in the show notes, along with the presenter's email, so you can reach out and get more information. Thanks for listening in, and until next time, stay safe out there.